Giggles podcast.
Alrighty, I think we're on. We are
I don't know what
back.
to do with my hands again.
Welcome, guys. We are talking today about supplements. KPow and I are going to talk about the supplements that we take like religiously, habitually, and then we're probably going to tangent off into some supplements as well that we think are probably less important for everyone, more specific to some people, probably more athletes or competitors, or if you're looking to increase certain markers in your blood and all that kind of stuff.
And also the gimmicks that you'll see in the supplement industry, what to avoid, what to not fall a victim to the marketing, because that's what a lot of it is nowadays.
I'm very excited because I think it's all marketing.
Yeah.
However,
I'm one of those victims. They
you
got me
see
again.
this fat burner is definitely going to work. Maybe we'll talk about also like things like BCAAs where there's research for and against it. We'll talk about whether it's whey proteins, whether it's plant-based proteins, pea proteins, all that kind of stuff. And we'll go from there. However, just a disclaimer, KPow does a lot more research into supplements, and my supplement list is basically
not big enough.
It's food.
You need more.
I'm way too lazy with supplements. So
what? That makes no sense.
Yeah.
Supplements make it easier if you are lazy. You're like,
no, because like it's just, man, I've got to pay for them and stuff, and they're expensive.
Oh, no.
I'd rather just eat. I hate eating as well. I'd rather just drink a milkshake. But anyways, we shouldn't have milkshakes because they're not healthy for you, but they taste good. So emotional health.
So we're going to start with our essentials.
Yep. How are you going to start?
So we'll pretty much just do the top 3 essentials for anyone that is an athlete or competing or lifting or in the space of the gym, essentially. Yeah. So we'll quickly go through these ones because I feel like there's a lot of different areas that we can discuss as far as supplements. So without further ado, the top one is going to be protein, because that is the biggest, well, not the biggest, but it's like one of the macronutrients that people are looking for to gain muscle, maintain muscle. So protein is going to be number 1. We have conflicting views because so for a lot of people, the difference between your whey protein and your plant-based protein. So I have the plant-based protein. Jono's still on his whey protein. The reason that I don't drink whey protein anymore is I saw a naturopath a few years ago, and he was like, just try it, eliminate dairy, see if you can notice the results. And within 2 days, I could feel the difference as far as the lactate buildup in a session. So what I was told was that the dairy is going to affect how quickly your body can kind of buffer the lactate through. If you're doing a leg heavy set, if you're doing like air-dyne sprints, you're going to notice that the lactate buildup is heavier if you're having milk or dairy protein or dairy product, sorry. So within 2 days, and coincidentally, I had air-dyne sprints with, I think it was wall balls or something, 2 like leg movements back to back. And within those 2 days, I could feel the difference with the lactate buildup. So I was sold then and there, and I was like, well, I'm just going to stop using whey protein. That's the reason that I don't do it. For anyone out there, I would recommend you to try things yourself. Because what works for me clearly doesn't work for Jono, because he doesn't fall victim to the lactate buildup like somebody else would. So
I just don't feel it. It's fine.
Yeah. But this is probably why your shoulders burn out and your thrusters. He's converted now. He's going to be taking plant protein.
Yep, done.
But that would be my biggest recommendation, would be to try these things for yourself, because if it works for me, doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to work for you. The other little thing to note with whey proteins is, and this is kind of like an industry secret, because for those of you who don't know, I worked in a supplement store for 5 years. So that's why I researched and looked into so many different supplements and the ingredients in them and blah, 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 blah. Whey protein concentrate and whey protein isolate have two different standards when it comes to how they can advertise themselves and market themselves and blah blah blah. Whey protein concentrate can have, I think it may have changed, but when I was there, it was like 60% of the protein had to be whey protein, and the rest could be byproducts of the process. So it could be ash, it could be whatever that is a byproduct throughout there. So you could be only getting 60% of the protein in your concentrates. Your isolates have to be, I think it was 95% had to be protein. So the quality alone, this has got nothing to do with the absorption rates and how the proteins actually work. The quality alone of concentrate versus isolate. Isolate is through the roof. You're getting way more actual protein in your protein compared to... So on the back, it could say 100% whey protein and you're getting 77 grams per 100 grams, so you're 77% protein. But that 77% only needs to be 60% protein, if that makes sense.
That's pretty cool. That's very interesting because a lot of people, I would say 90% of people don't know that unless they're
No.
researching it like you have. Um, so that's super. Yeah, I've just always gone to isolate because that's just what I've always been told to have.
Well, a lot of people, so if you look at the context of concentrate isolate, so
Mhm.
ignoring the quality of the protein, your concentrate is a slower absorption, or not a slower, but it's a less percentage absorption, and the isolate's a quicker absorption, gets into the bloodstream and gets utilized a lot quicker. So you use it in the context of like a fire hydrant is whey protein isolates. You're putting all this protein into your muscles and it's getting in there really, really quick, whereas your whey protein concentrate is a slower drip. So yeah, long term you might end up absorbing the same sort of amount, but it's not getting into the system as quick. And then you're looking at your training times. So half an hour window after you finish training, your body's absorbing protein at a higher rate. It's absorbing pretty much all of your nutrients at a higher rate. So that's why you want to get it into the system as quickly as possible.
And that makes a lot of difference when it comes to recovery if you're doing double sessions or if you're going into like a PM session into an AM session.
Yeah.
That's going to be a huge difference going into that next one.
A lot of people will use whey concentrates for cooking and stuff like that because you're eating it and it's not, the intention there isn't to get it into the bloodstream as quickly as possible. It's like you're eating it throughout the day with lunch, so you haven't just finished training kind of thing. So they both have their uses, they both have their places, but for the majority of athletes, it's a whey protein isolate is going to be the better option because you're getting a better quality, you're getting a higher amount, and it's getting into the system a lot quicker as well.
Cool. All right. Well, while we're being super specific with this, differences with I'm just gonna, I don't know if this is offensive, the vegan proteins. Like, can we just blanket them as vegan and say like you've got your pea proteins, you've got your hemp proteins, you've got your it's probably coconut proteins, there's coconut, everything else. Like, is there differences in it, or are they usually a blend of different protein sources?
I don't think there's quite enough in the context of whey versus plant-based protein. Is the studies, there's not as many studies on the plant-based stuff at the moment.
So I don't mean in comparison to whey. I mean, so if someone is vegetarian or vegan and they want to get a protein, what would be the best type of protein they could get? Would they just go to a certain, I don't know if you want a brand drop or anything, but is it a brand that makes it better, or is it a type of protein source
so you better? Can get, I'm not as well versed on these, just a disclaimer, but you can get like a pea protein isolate. So same sort of context. The isolates are going to get into the system quicker. So it depends on what you're using it for. But the thing that majority of people, you're finishing your training session and you're having your protein shake. Right? So the argument that heaps of, plant-based protein doesn't have the same amount of leucine, which is like the antagonist to, or not antagonist, but the one that kind of stimulates all of the, I'm blanking here. Not hypertrophy, the protein synthesis.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's got a lower level, so they're like, oh, you're not going to absorb as much protein, it's not going to be as effective as the whey protein. But one of the studies that I came across, actually said that the sensitivity increase that you get from training nullifies the lack of leucine in plant protein.
That'd be interesting to read.
So
Very
you have
interesting.
the same amount of muscle protein synthesis, and you have the same essentially. There's like minor differences, but across this study, there was no scientific evidence for a difference in muscle growth between a plant-based protein and a whey protein. That was because
exercise.
Yeah, because of the timing of when they had them.
Okay.
So
cool.
But if you can get your hands on an isolate, you're going to be better off with absorption compared to a blend.
All right, cool. That's cool because I think you went pretty deep. Well, not deep, but you quite informative with the whey protein stuff, which is obviously going to benefit me. But then there are going to be people that aren't going to be wanting to have that, and so
yeah,
thought we'd cover that. Sweet. What else?
So that'll be number one.
Yeah, number one. Number two,
creatine. But it has to be a monohydrate.
Agreed.
Creatine
100%.
monohydrate. So there's so many different strands. You can get like a creatine ethyl ester. You can get a creatine, like there's hundreds, maybe not hundreds, but there's heaps of different chemical types of creatine. Monohydrate is the most studied. It's got the most scientific evidence of its what's the word? That it works, essentially.
Yeah.
So if you can get your hands on a creatine monohydrate, which is the best value for money as well, because the hydrochlorides and all the other ones, they're like, this is where the marketing gets you.
Mm-hmm.
They'll try and sell it that it has a quicker absorption, and one of the selling points on one of them, I can't remember which one it was it absorbs quicker in water. That was their selling point. It absorbs quicker in water. I'm like, what? That makes... Anyway, yeah. So creatine monohydrate is the one that you want to be taking. You'll see different studies saying that you've got to load it and take 20 grams a week for the first a day for the first 2 weeks, and loading is irrelevant. You don't actually need to load creatine monohydrate. 5 grams a day. Doesn't have to be timed. If you're looking specifically for strength gains, then you can have it pre-session, and there's a noticeable difference there. But if you're having it for recovery and endurance and those sorts of things, then you don't necessarily need to time it. And what creatine does, we spoke about this in the previous episode about the ATP and the different energy systems that your body uses.
Yeah, I don't know. Was it the previous one? Or was it the one
not
before?
The previous, or one of the ones. One of our previous episodes.
Because we've got so many now.
Yeah. It increases the amount of ATP that your body has or your body stores. So ATP is what your body breaks down and utilizes as energy while you're training. And the new science is saying that you're using it through all of your energy systems. So it's not just a quick output. It's not a 1 rep clean that you're using it for, and you're not using it on your 5K run, because the science now says that you are using just as much on your 5K run. So the increased amount of ATP is going to make you perform better, recover faster, for longer. It is the best bang for your buck for supplements that you should be taking.
Just to add to that as well, I know some supplements some pre-workouts don't put creatine in their pre-workout blend because it can, and I think this is the only side effect that people have found, and you might know more as well, but from what I've read and everything, that the only real side effect is it can be a gut irritant to some people, and they usually only find that when they're loading it when they don't need to. So 3 to 5 grams a day usually holds off that. But if you do get a little bit of it's not terrible, it's just a bit of uncomfort in the gut, you can spread that out, because it doesn't really, there's not a lot besides before training. As long as you have it, you're pretty good. You're pretty safe. You keep that saturating the body with it.
The other disclaimer there is the side effects from creatine are in the same context of some people can't handle milk.
Yeah.
It's not
some people.
Yeah, there's no known side effects from it. You're not gonna break out in acne, and you're not gonna have
There's only one thing that does
yeah,
that.
yeah. But yeah, so the creatine would be one of the highly, 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 highly recommended supplements that everyone should be taking if they're lifting and training.
all my clients, when they ask what they should take, I recommend a protein, depending on how they're eating first. But then creatine is like a must-have. Like it's something I'm like, you just have to have it because
Yeah.
it's so good for the price, and it's so good for the lack of side effects that you'll experience, which is basically
And
zero.
you don't have to come off it. So it's not like you do
Yeah.
8 weeks of it and then have to cycle off for 4 weeks and blah, blah. No, you can take it year round.
There's only one thing you have to do that for as well.
Well, you're supposed to do it with pre-workouts as well. But,
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
You need to have about 4 years off then to cycle off.
Shh.
Cool. And number 3?
Oh, well, just before, the other thing that a lot of people complain about with creatine is, I've heard that it makes you hold a lot of water. It does within muscle cells. So it's not going to increase water retention in your fat cells. It's
You're not going to look like the Michelin Man.
No.
You
So
probably
that's
already
a
do.
little bit of a myth. It's the people that take it and then start eating or keep eating Hungry Jacks. Like, it's the creatine. Bro,
It must be.
It's not the creatine.
It's my shoes.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, not those ones.
Cool. Yeah, number 3.
Number 3. I am a little bit biased, but I think caffeine.
No, I don't even think that's a biased thing.
I love caffeine.
I
Caffeine.
think the amount that you take.
First and foremost, caffeine is not a stimulant. Most people think that caffeine is a stimulant, and it is not technically a stimulant. How it operates and how it works is your body has what's called adenosine, and that builds up in your body over the day, and that is what makes you feel tired at the end of the day, is the amount of adenosine that's in your body.
Yeah.
Caffeine blocks the adenosine receptors, so it stops you from feeling tired. It doesn't actually stimulate you and wake you up. It doesn't do any of that. It just stops you from feeling the effects of the adenosine in your system.
So, for example, guys, it would be like, say, if you were to have like I don't know, like you got like little dips, right? I've seen this drawn in before, and the adenosine in the body's floating around, and it's going to fill that dip, and that's the receptor is the dip, whereas the caffeine will kind of fill that dip up for you, and so the adenosine can't actually get to the receptor.
Yeah.
So that's a good way to think about it, though, that it's not a stimulant. I didn't. No. Ooh, very wise.
It's not actually a stimulant. So this is another little hack from, his name's right on the tip of my tongue. I'm going to forget it.
I'm going to say a name.
Huberman.
I wasn't going to say that name.
Anyway, I think it's Andrew Huberman.
Andrew Huberman.
Another one that we're butchering.
No, that's perfect.
Is it Andrew?
He's epic. Yeah. He is epic, actually.
Huberman has a little hack with caffeine. He said, if you can, for the first hour to 90 minutes of your day, don't have your cup of coffee. Don't have your pre-workout. Don't have whatever it is. This is hard if you're training at like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning because you're not going to get up earlier. But if you can put off for the first 60 minutes to 90 minutes of the day, your body's actually going to pretty much like flush out or utilize the adenosine that's still in your system. So that way, when you do have your coffee, you don't have this leftover amount of adenosine in your system that when the coffee wears off, it's boom. The adenosine,
the receptors.
So that is when people will have the 2 o'clock or the 3 o'clock slump, is their caffeine's worn off and the adenosine is still in the system, and then it's just kind of all hits the receptors, and then you have a mad crash in the afternoon. So to avoid the crash, just push off your coffee or your caffeine for an hour to 90 minutes in the morning to let the adenosine get out of your system first.
Yeah.
You heard
I think that's actually quite smart.
After Andrew Huberman.
He's a genius, actually. I mean, for all those that hate ice baths and everything like that with the research and all that stuff, he's actually for it. So he's the reason I actually got into it.
He's the reason? Oh, here I was thinking that I'd influenced you.
It's not you. You're trying to influence me to like all these like media hoaxes and stuff like that. Andrew Huberman got me into ice bath. It was wicked. It was epic.
I had a little role to play in that. I
Yeah,
helped.
whatever.
I
In the
pushed
words
you.
of, you know what? No, that's going to be a tangent. I was going to start talking about Joe Rogan and ice baths and everything. Cool. Also, caffeine has also been proven to be a performance enhancer within sport. All right.
Yep.
And so I think it's an amazing thing to make you more alert, more focused. Some people will be against it, and that's fine. You're allowed to be against it, but it's been
there's
researched.
there's also like a balance point there as well, because if you overdo the amount of caffeine, then it's counterproductive. Like
Hmm.
your focus, then you get the jitters and you can't quite focus because you've got too much
It's a bit
going on.
more
And,
erratic.
yeah, so
Yep.
there is a fine line that each person's it's going to be person dependent on the amount of caffeine. I know a few people that a cup of coffee is like, wow, there, oh, wow. Whereas
Yep.
me, I need like 4 or 5 of them, and then I'm like, oh, I'm functioning again.
So, for example, me, if I have any hint, even if I have a Fit Aid, which has like 48 micrograms of caffeine, and I
It's
think it's
85, I'm pretty sure, but
85 grams. No, it's not. I'm going to go
it's
get a
not
can
85
right now.
grams. It is
It's
definitely not
45. I
85
can see it.
grams. That says
Definitely
45
not grams.
calories.
Are you sure? I'm going to go look. You know what? I'll be right back. I'm going to go get it now.
I'm pretty sure that it's 85 milligrams per serve and it's 45 calories, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
Yeah, coming back.
He's coming back. You're going to have to show the camera. Show the
You
can to the
don't
camera
trust
now.
anything I say, hey.
No, we'll just.
Uh,
No, I don't. Where's the big 45 that you were looking at?
Wait, that was the 45 calories. You were right on that one.
Yeah, that's
Good on
one.
you.
One for me.
He's probably not even going to say it. It'll probably be like
It
a
does.
blend.
No.
It used to say it like right on the can. You know what? Let's just keep talking, and I will bring this up later, so I'm not wasting time
But
with
yes,
this.
caffeine. Caffeine is another very. I would say a lot of people use caffeine anyway, but if you're going to use it for competing specifically, like if you've got a comp that's coming up and you want to take full advantage of caffeine, then you are actually better off coming off caffeine for a month or so before, so that way the effects of caffeine are more heightened for your competition as well. Something that I've struggled with forever because I don't like to come off caffeine.
You literally sleep with it.
I'm not that bad.
Yeah, you're pretty bad. Anyways, I can't find it. I'm going to get another can later.
I reckon you can't
I'm being dead
find
serious.
it.
It says it here. Caffeine from green tea extract. Green tea extract. That's it. And then it doesn't actually have it in the like nutrition content table or something like that. So it used
No,
to be
it's in
right
one
on
of
the
the.
can.
It is on the can. It's just on
It's
one of the little. I can't. It's in one of the little. Anyway, we'll find
it's
it
not.
later.
Anyways, I'm gonna go find that
I'll
one, and
send
I'll
you a
probably
picture
Google
later today.
it. We'll upload it. We'll put a link. No. Anyways, what a plug. I don't need to do anything with it. Anyways, I shared a Fit Aid caffeine, a Fit Aid can one afternoon. So I'd trained already, but I was still coaching. So I did like a couple, 2 or 3 hours of coaching that night, and I could not sleep that night.
Yeah, wow.
I'm super sensitive to
Yeah,
caffeine.
not just to caffeine. You're just super sensitive.
Just sensitive.
Sitting there crying because you can't get to sleep. Help
Sometimes
me.
my head is so mad. Actually, cool. You didn't talk about caffeine because that's a good segue into one of the supplements
Go
I
for it.
love. Cool. All right. So on that with sleep. So and now I've not done a lot of research into them specifically. It's more again, this is going to be one that I've trialed, and I have noticed the difference is going to be ZMAs, zinc, magnesium, and aspartic acid, or just vitamin B, I believe, vitamin C, not B. So I have it before bed pretty much every night, and I notice a difference for my sleep quality, the way I wake up, and how I'm feeling physically the next day from it.
Yeah.
And whether that's just because of the zinc, just because of the magnesium, just because of the aspartic acid, I don't care. I have them. It tastes amazing, and I'm fine. And so
That's the marketing. The
that's yeah,
marketing's got you.
I don't mind because it works.
Yeah.
Sleep, cool. So you obviously might know a lot more about that. However, I did notice one thing where I was constantly getting sick for ages. Like I just was getting over it. This was back in Perth actually.
That was
And
ages
then
ago.
yeah, I know. Whew. And then yeah, and then I was like, you know what, I'm just going to increase my zinc intake mainly, and that was a huge like. I felt a massive difference just in my health. Like I wasn't sniffing and coughing, getting sick easier. I wasn't
Mm.
like getting the fevers and all that stuff. So that was really, really helpful.
So
That's
zinc,
something different. It's not ritual for me, but the ZMAs is.
yeah. So zinc, like, is your testosterone for guys out there. Testosterone is zinc dependent. So for
Wow.
recovery, if you don't have enough zinc, and it doesn't have to be a big amount, like if you're having 10 milligrams or 15 milligrams of zinc, that's more than enough. So zinc
Good.
is, if you don't have zinc, your body can't produce testosterone.
Cool.
So if you're in any sort of zinc deficiency, get some zinc into your life and you'll probably notice the difference in your recovery, which is probably why you are feeling sick, because if you're not recovering well, then your immune system's low. There's a whole flow on domino effect of having a shitty immune system from shitty recovery from, yeah. So zinc
Sweet.
is extremely beneficial, especially for the fellas out there. Magnesium, if there was a number 4 supplement that I could tack on to the top 3, it would be magnesium,
Yeah,
because it
super
has
important.
so many there's the same thing with the creatine. There's so many different types of magnesium out there. There's some that are better for muscle recovery, there's some for better for sleep, there are some
Some
that
for
have better,
better bowel movements.
yeah, yeah. We'll pretty much overload on any magnesium and that'll help there. But yeah, there's so many different types of magnesium. So like even your Epsom salt baths, so you can absorb magnesium through the skin, through a bath. So the magnesium would be one of the biggest ones, because especially here in Australia. So if you were eating food that you were told or believed that has a high magnesium content and it was grown here in Australia, the soil in Australia is extremely magnesium deficient. So even if that food should have a high level of magnesium, chances are that it doesn't. Magnesium deficiency is one of the biggest things globally. People just don't have enough magnesium. I personally have 4 times the daily recommended amount of magnesium. I have two in the morning of, I can't even, it's a blend that I'll have in the morning, and then I'll have 2 serves of the sleep one at night as well, which I find actually helps me get to sleep and have a way better quality of sleep as well. You'll know if you're having too much magnesium, because then it will help with any bowel movements that
I
that
mean,
you're having
help.
issues with.
I don't know if
Yeah,
help's the right way,
yeah,
but it will definitely.
might be the wrong word.
You won't need to push.
Yeah, you may need to run though. But yeah,
And like put like a
magnesium.
landing pad down on the water so you don't
Yeah,
get splashback because it's coming.
yeah, magnesium
Ew.
would definitely be up there. That'd be my number 4 if
All
there
right,
was a number
cool,
4. But yeah,
awesome. My other one, which this is purely just because I don't enjoy eating either, is
which makes, like, that to me makes no sense that you don't like supplements then.
I just
I
it's
don't like
so
eating,
much
but
effort,
supplements are
man.
so much effort.
Everything's like, oh man,
It sounds like a lot of excuses. That's what
it's
I'm hearing.
not excuse. I'm not making excuses. I still eat, and I don't take supplements, but I
You
still
sound so
eat.
happy about it. Well, I still eat.
Hey, you should see it. Sometimes I'm sitting there. Sometimes I even like pace around the kitchen because I'm trying to eat. And Hannah's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm trying to eat." She's like, "You're ridiculous." Or she'd be like, or like, I'll have like a spoonful of peanut butter as I'm eating, like as I'm preparing the food and everything. And by the time I've prepared the food, I'm just not hungry, so I just don't
Because you
eat
had
it.
it. Because you had
So I
peanut
have,
butter.
yeah, I had like a tablespoon of peanut. It's terrible. So,
We are
um,
not the same. I can't help but, like, I inhale my food.
oh man, no way.
It's there and it is gone within a
Yeah.
matter of seconds.
I have a friend, and we were eating chicken nuggets. Oh, shameful, but we were eating chicken nuggets, and I remember looking down and be like, "Man, you've literally finished all of them," and I'm on like my second or third chicken nugget. He's like, "Yeah, man," and then I was like, "How many times do you chew?" And he was like 3 or 4 times, and he ate one. And he's like, "Yeah, like 3 times," and I was like, "What?" And I was like, "I'm gonna do that," and I chewed my food. I think it was like nearly 20 times before I was like, "Yep, all right, now I can
Wow.
digest it." Like it was terrible. So
Mm.
it's the effort as well. But no, well. Anyways, all right.
Anyways,
back to it. So one of my favorite ones is actually, and you can, I mean, it's super basic. It's just any carbohydrate drink. So whether it's Staminade, whether it's Powerade, I really like this isn't a plug for them, but you can check them out. The Electrolyte Plus of Bulk Nutrients. I think it's good value for money. It's a good amount of carbs as well. And it tastes really good. And so I'm willing to drink it during training, because during training, I'm in enough discomfort. I'm not going to drink something that I just don't enjoy. So, however, Staminade is usually always on sale because no one wants to buy it. So that's what I also get.
I love Staminade. I'm the same. So I'll just normally pick out the Powerade powder or the Staminade powder or whatever's on special that week.
Honestly, yeah. And if it's like super on special, I'm going to stock up.
Yeah, I'm going to give me 3 or 4 of them.
I just think it's a really easy way to keep like glucose in the body. Also, really easy way to get calories in if you're going to look at it from that end as well. And they're enjoyable to drink. Sometimes proteins don't mix well. Sometimes like creatine makes your protein shake taste like crap. And so
if you're looking at it from a purely performance standpoint, you're not looking at trying to lose weight and you're not trying to put on weight or anything like that. Carbohydrates, your training session, if you view your muscles as your battery store, as you train, you deplete the energy from your muscle stores or the battery. When you have carbs straight away after your training session or throughout your training session, what you're doing is you're restoring the energy in the muscles or in that battery before it goes into the system and gets stored as fat. So carbohydrates at the right doses in the right time don't really contribute to the calories of a day in the same sort of context. What they're doing is
they're used so immediately.
But it's just replenishing because the glycogen is what gets stored in the muscles. So it goes into your system as glucose, your body converts it to glycogen, and that's what gets stored in the muscle, and that's what gets broken down. Especially in CrossFit training, we are a glycolytic sport, so we use carbohydrates mostly for our training, which come from the muscles. So it's not actually coming from the food. Well, it is coming from the food that you've eaten, but it's more so directly coming from the muscle. So it's going to deplete that battery first, and then it's going to look somewhere else for an energy source. So if you can keep that battery full by using carbohydrates through your session or straight away after, then it's going to be a quicker turnaround for an energy system.
It's good. And like, who doesn't like consuming carbs? Don't at me, keto people. All right, don't. It's not worth it. So that would be, apart from protein and creatine, they were my other ones that, I mean,
they're kind of staples.
Yeah, I don't think I've opened my creatine bag since Torian, and I'm having protein right now, and ZMAs I have most nights. So, and the carbohydrates I have when I can be bothered making the drink. Otherwise, I just have water. But I need to get better with that. But so that would be the basics. Is there any little ones that you look at? Like, are we going to talk about pre-workouts?
I love
something
pre-workouts.
You think? Yeah, you want to give us a download on that and why? Like, what stimulants are actually in there, and what to look for?
Majority of them nowadays, because Australia's regulations are so tight when it comes to ingredients, the majority of them will just use caffeine as a stimulant. But like we said before, it's not actually a stimulant. So they'll go to, depending on, I like that supplements are now going to like stim free because they're trying to increase blood flow and they're trying to increase like all these other components of like your pre-workouts without the caffeine. So that way, if you're training over night time, then you can get something that's going to boost your training session at the same time without the downside of not being able to get to sleep that night. But the main sort of ingredients or the main things that the pre-workouts are trying to achieve would be performance increase and then blood flow. They would be the main ones just off the top of my head. And one of the main ingredients for your performance is going to be like your beta-alanine. So beta-alanine can be bought as an individual ingredient and you just whack it into your pre-workout or into your Staminade or Powerade if you're just drinking some carbs. But that actually slows down the rate of your lactic acid buildup, or it helps your body buffer the lactate faster, so that way you're pushing off the buildup. which for the sport of CrossFit is a massive advantage.
Super important, because that's what we're working in. We're working in that lactate threshold realm.
Yeah. And I'm giving away a bit too much info here, but the
Oh.
beta-alanine can actually be, if you look at the same mechanisms as creatine, if you take creatine, it'll work instantly in that session. But then if you take it day on day, like day in, day out for the next 2 weeks, a month, a little bit longer, it has like a compounding effect and it lasts a little bit longer in the system and your body's a little bit more primed to kind of use it. Beta-alanine actually works in the same mechanism. So if you're taking it day in, day out as a consistent supplement, then the effects of it are actually heightened as well. So it's not an ingredient, like if you compare creatine to caffeine, as soon as it's out your system, it's done, it's gone, it no longer helps you.
Mm-hmm.
But creatine builds up in your system, increases the amount of stores that you have and blah, blah, blah. Beta-alanine works the same. So if you don't load it, please do not load it. But this is also the ingredient that makes you feel itchy when you start training. So if you have your C4, that's that itchy feeling is the beta-alanine in your...
Which some people love. I don't get it.
I love it.
I love it. Oh, there we go. Beta-alanine. We are so opposite when it comes to supplements.
I use them and you don't.
Then when I do, I complain.
Yeah.
So,
this was too hard.
I actually love beta-alanine. So leading up to the pro, I was so scared of getting popped for any like tainted supplements. So I was like, I only had HASTA tested stuff that I would actually have, and so. And then with the beta-alanine, I would just have beta-alanine, staminade, and I would sometimes, if it was going to be like a super sweaty session, I'd add some more salts into the drink just to help with that. That was my pre-workout, but I would have to sip it. I mean, I would sip it anyway just to kind of prolong it, but it was just, man, the itch. I don't know how people like it. I don't get it. I don't know why you want to feel like a meth.
I'm ready to go.
Exactly. You sound like a crackhead now. So like, it just makes no sense.
You want that hype before you're getting ready for a session. You're like,
no, that is not hype. That is frustration. That's agitation.
Use it. Channel it.
However, it's hilarious watching someone take it for the first time.
Yeah, it is.
Just scratch your face, man. It'll make you feel better. I promise.
Yeah. But beta-alanine for me is like, I can't take it anymore. So it's a little bit too much info, but like,
are you going to go there?
Yeah, I'm going. It makes me stink like crazy. And it took me the better part of a bit over a year to figure out what it was. But my sweat is just disgusting if I'm taking beta-alanine. So I try and save it for events only. Like if I'm doing competition, I'll have it for that weekend because it's not going to be in my system long enough to make me stink. But yeah, if I have it all the time, it's horrible.
Yeah. Whereas I found when we were speaking about this a few weeks ago, or even a couple months ago, I was like, oh man, maybe that's what I was like and everything. And I noticed that even if I brought mine down from like 3 to 5 grams, 3 to 5 grams a day to like 1 to 2 grams, I can still feel the good effects of it, but it didn't cause any of those like better term
stench.
Smell.
Yeah. It's very off-putting, so I don't take beta-alanine anymore.
But you also don't work that hard, so you don't sweat that much anymore, so it doesn't really matter. Mr. 135.
Full of all the jokes.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't work hard. I just lift heavy things.
That's right.
It's a simple life.
It's rewarding.
Yeah.
Well, it is right now for you.
But the other caveat that I would put to with fat burners. So this is where the marketing comes back in.
I hate this stuff.
So I personally, I would go through fat burners left, right, and center. I use them all the time, but I don't use them with the intention of burning fat with them. I use them, one, because there's no beta-alanine in them, so I can actually use them, and two, they have a very similar amount of caffeine in them. So I'll use fat burners instead of pre-workouts, but I'm not buying them thinking that I'm going to burn fat with them, because they're going to give you like 1% of your results. So if you're still eating Macca's and KFC and not training, and
Yeah.
they ain't doing nothing. So they're like the final piece of the puzzle, and you might get 1% of the results from it, but that's about it.
I think when it comes to looking at supplements, and this is going to be very general, you can correct me if you feel I'm wrong, but
Most of the time,
any slogan that they come up with is that, yes, they like fat burners. Yes, they burn fat, but they're not telling you how little they do. So, like you said, it's the 1%ers. It's like the fat burners. It even comes down to like different ways of recovery. Like you get those ultrasound recovery machines and everything. And yes, the science has shown they work, but like the tiniest of bits where you're almost wasting your money unless you're looking for that 1% change. And you can find a 50% change by improving your diet or improving 70%.
50%'s huge. But I think, I think
you
a
can
lot
improve. I'm just gonna
keep talking over me.
You're good.
I think the effects that people get from like fat burners and those little 1%ers, a lot of it is the placebo effect. They think that it's working heaps. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just quick little question about this. I was talking to my uncle about this. Would have been 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he was talking about, I can't remember what he was talking about, but he was saying that they've worked out that this medication or this supplement or something we were talking about, it doesn't actually work. It's placebo. And I said, well, if it's placebo, it's technically still working. So what's the difference? And that's going to go against everything we've just said. But then he was like, no, because it doesn't work. And I was like, but it is working. It's just not working the way that you think it's working because it's placebo. It's in your mind. And so I was like, people go, this might be deep. People go to therapists or psychologists to help them get their mind to, like, I guess, be straight or kind of put their thoughts in order. And technically that's all in the mind. So then what's the difference with getting something else to do it? And he didn't appreciate that. And I know that I was pushing buttons, deliberately pushing buttons, but like, there's that argument if you really wanted to be an asshole.
Just kind of goes to show that how powerful the mind is.
Ooh. It is Mindset 3.0
next week. No.
We're professionals.
But yeah, I think we've rambled on for long enough. We touched on enough.
I think that was really good, man. I think that was. I mean, obviously you were going to be the one that knew more about it, and I learned heaps. So I appreciate that.
Hope everybody else did as well.
Yeah.
All right.
And I'll never admit this again, ever.
I've got it on camera, so
that's okay. I'll just deny it. It was AI.
All right. Sam, again, leave any comments you got down below, and we will see you next week.
As always, guys, appreciate you guys. Keep it up. Peace.
Ciao.